So people who know me know that I like comedy, and this is my Aunt Peggy and Uncle Joe's grave, and my family is a huge inspiration by comedy. So I thought I would share some of my favorite Aunt Peggy, Uncle Joe stories and make people laugh, you know? Aunt Peggy used to have me over every summer, and this is my great-great aunt, right? My great-grandmother was in the process of trying to raise me as a kid, which means I basically ran the house. And she would get at her wit's end, and I would go to Peggy's house. Also an old woman, bent over with osteoporosis. She was Scottish. She said GD constantly. Curse words were like peppered into everything. She's very colorful with her language. Very blunt, honest, racist. It's not funny, but it is, you know what I mean? Because it's so absurd. Because back then that was just a crazy culture around here. It was crazy. So even though she was only like 5 foot, maybe 4'11", like she was short, she was full of, as they would say, piss and vinegar. And I used to go over there in the summer, right? And she had this dog named Boots, and I dreamt of him the other day. Boots was a cockapoo, and when he was young, he was this cute little puppy. But Aunt Peggy, she smoked like a freight train, and she raised Boots, and he got dirtier and nastier as he got old, because her house was getting dirtier and nastier because she was getting old. And she didn't mean anything by it, you know, she was just losing her ability to be a good housewife. So the house was deteriorating, Boots is deteriorating, and I used to tell my grandma, he's like petting a greased axle. Like, he was getting greasy with his Jerry curl like Rick James, and he was losing teeth, and she's feeding him nothing but Fritos. And he had a brother, he was a Maltese named Buddy. Buddy got morbidly obese because Aunt Peggy was just throwing him human food all the time. So this is like probably considered animal abuse, but it's out of love, you know what I mean? It's like feeding a heroin addict like $5 bills when they ask for it. You know what they're gonna do with it. It's gonna ultimately end them, but you feel bad for them because they're miserable. And like these dogs, they're just they want the food. And Peggy would give in because she had a freaking heart. Like, she's enabling out of empathy and love, not understanding that she was killing. So this is a really funny story. This we'll wind it up with because we're going on dogs. There's so many Peggy stories, I could go for hours. I had a Shih Tzu growing up named Pudgy. And when Rosie died, the one that raised me, Aunt Peggy got Pudgy because I was in college and I was technically like homeless at this point. I had nowhere to keep a dog. I was in a dorm. So Aunt Peggy starts feeding Pudgy. Pudgy, I used to feed her crazy stuff when I was a kid, but only once in a while. She had a stable diet of like kibbles and bits and maintained her weight. But when she moved in with Aunt Peggy literally told me when I came to visit her in her trailer, I was like, what happened to Pudgy? She had gained like 5 pounds, and on a Shih Tzu, that's like 80 on me. She was morbidly obese. And she goes, when I eat a donut, Pudgy gets a donut. And like, that literally happened. So I thought my dog, Pudgy, my childhood dog, had died of like diabetes and obesity. But it turns out that she started having a seizure one day. And my cousin Shalise, who lived with Aunt Peggy, she's like a butch tomboy type woman. She said, she's like, sorry, little man, I never wanted to break it to you, never told you. Pudgy was having a seizure, I took her out back and shot her. Like, she shot my dog. She put my dog down like freaking Old Yeller. And like, I would have cried back then. But no, I didn't find out until years later. So it didn't hit me with the impact. It's tragic. But my PTSD, like, now it's comedy. But I never knew. Can you believe that?